Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 73, entitled, Lord Krishna Blesses the Liberated Kings. So there's no purport for text 11, 12, and 13. There's a purport for text number 14. So I'll read the Sanskrit and the translation for 11, 12, and 13, and then we'll chant together for text number 14. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Magri Trishnam Yatabala Manyanta Udakshayam Evam Vaikarikim Mayam Ayukta Vastu Chakshate. Translation. Just as men of childish intelligence consider a mirage in the desert to be a pond of water, so those who are irrational look upon the illusory transformations of Maya as substantial. Text 12 and 13. Vayam pura Sri Mandanasta Drishtayo Jigishayasya Itarai Tarasprida Kananta Prajasva Ati Nigrina Prabhu Mrityum Parastvavi Ghanaya Nurmada Taeva Krishnadya Ghabhira Ranghasa Duranta Viryena Vichalita Sriya Kalena Tandva Bhavato Nukampaya Nivasta Darpas Charanos Maramate. Translation. Previously, blinded by the intoxication of riches, we wanted to conquer this earth, and thus we fought one another to achieve victory, mercilessly harassing our own subjects. We arrogantly disregarded you, O Lord, who stood before us as death. But now, O Krishna, that powerful form of yours, called time, moving mysteriously and irresistibly, has deprived us of our opulences. Now that you have mercifully destroyed our pride, we beg simply to remember your lotus feet. Text number 14. Ato narajam mrigatrish Trishni Rupitam Ato Narajam Mrigatrishni Rupitam Tahena Shashvat Patata Rajam Bhuva Tahena Shashvat Patata Rujang Bhuva Upasitavyam Sprihaya Mahe Vibhu Upasitavyam Sprihaya Mahe Vibhu Kriya Phalang Pretya Chakarna Rochanam Kriya Phalam Pretya Chakarna Rochanam. Ato narajam mrigatrishni rupitam tahena shashvat patataru jangbhuva upasitavyam sprihayam ahevabo kriya phalam pritya chakana rochanam ato narajam mrigatrishni rupitam dahena shashvat patataru jangbhuva upasitavyam sprihayam ahevabo kriya phalang pritya chakarna rochanam ato narajam mrigatrishni rupitam tahena shashvat patataru jangbhuva upasitavyam sprihayam ahevabo kriya phalang pritya chakarna rochanam ato narajam mrigatrishni rupitam tahena shashvat patataru jangbhava upasitavyam sprihayam ahevabo Phalam pritya chakarna rochanam ato narajam mrigatrishni rupitam dehena shashvat patataru jangbhuva upasitavyam sprihamanamevabo kriya phalam pritya chakarna rochanam ato narajam mrigatrishni rupitam Ladies, Rajam Mrigatrishni Rupitam Dehena Shashvat Patataru Jambhuva Upasitavyam Srihayam Ahevabo Ata'u, henceforward. Na, not. Rajam, kingdom. Megatrishni, like a mirage. Rupatam, which appears. Dehena, by the material body. Shashvat, perpetually. Patata, subject to demise. Rujam, of diseases. Bhuva, the birthplace. Upasitavyam, to be served. Sprihayamahe, do we hanker for? Vibho, O Almighty Lord, Kriya of pious work, Phalam, the fruit, Pretya, having passed to the next life, Cha, and Karna, for the ears, Rochanam, enticement. Translation: never again will we hanker for a mirage-like kingdom, a kingdom that must be slavishly served by this mortal body, which is simply a source of disease and suffering, and which is declining at every moment. Nor, O Almighty Lord, will we hanker to enjoy the heavenly fruits of pious work in the next life, since the promise of such rewards is simply an empty enticement for the ears. Purport: one must work very hard to maintain a kingdom or political sovereignty, and yet the body, which works so hard to maintain one's political power, is itself doomed. At every moment, the mortal body moves toward death, and all along the way, the body is subject to many painful diseases. The whole affair of mundane power is thus a waste of time for the pure soul, who needs to revive his dormant Krishna consciousness. The Vedic scriptures and other religious scriptures contain many promises of prosperity and heavenly enjoyment in the next life for one who acts piously in this life. Such promises are pleasing to the ears, but they are nothing more than that. Material enjoyment, whether in heaven or in hell, is a type of illusion for the pure soul. But the personal association of Lord Krishna, by the personal association of Lord Krishna, the fortunate kings have now realized the higher spiritual reality beyond the phantasmagoria of the material creation. Om Ajnana Timidandasya Jnananjana Chalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Gadim Yat Kripa Taraham Bande Shri Gurun Dinatarnanam Paramanandamaravam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So, we see that after defeating Jarasandha, Lord Krishna released the 20,000 kings that Jarasandha had conquered and was keeping imprisoned. These kings, after being released, were treated very nicely by Lord Krishna, and they provided them with clean cloth and proper foodstuffs, and that way the kings became to their original position. But now, having come in contact with Lord Krishna, they had changed their consciousness, and this is what they're explaining to Krishna. And the fact is that anyone who comes in touch with Krishna, they'll become, their consciousness will change. These kings had the great fortune of having the personal association of Krishna. Like Arjuna. Arjuna was personally instructed by Lord Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And the whole battle of Kurukshetra was orchestrated by Lord Krishna so that the proper person would be in power. And that proper person being Yudhisthira Maharaj. So, the sages at Namasaranya were specifically wondering, now that Krishna, the protector of Dharma, who's Dharma personified, now that he's left, how will things go on? Right? So, Shuddha Goswami explains that just as when Krishna was personally here, and now he's gone, and Kali Yuga is progressing, one will be able to get the same benefit of meeting Krishna personally by hearing the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. And specifically in this age, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains in his Shikshastakam that the consciousness will become purified. These kings who have now met Lord Krishna and actually been released from prison by Lord Krishna, they've had a change in their consciousness. And this verses, the kings are explaining what that change is. So the kings understand. Mriga Trishnam. Mriga Trishnam means a mirage. Mirage. Huh? I don't know what the Hindi word is for mirage. If you see something in the distance, like on a hot day, you're driving down the road and you look for it, you think there's water on the road, that's called a mirage. Okay? In Hindi? Mrigajal. So like this, same word in Sanskrit. Mrigajal. Mrigatrishni. Right? So mirage. Right? Now, a grown man who's driving the car knows that that so-called water in the distance on a hot day on the road, it's not real. Right? But the small bacha who's riding in the car, he says, Papa dekho, pani aage hai. But he's bacha. He don't know this is mirage. Mriga Trishna, Mriga Jal. Right? But the intelligent man, he knows. There's no water ahead. It's just an illusion. Right? So this realization the kings have come to. They realized. What did they realize? They realized that this idea that they're going to be happy by their arrangement in the material world, right? It's just like the bacha who think there's water on the road, on a hot sun, or a person who sees water in the desert, right? There's no water in the desert. Is there water in the desert? There's no, that's why it's a desert, because there's no water, right? So only the childish mentality will think that, oh yes, there's water in the desert. Okay? So this example is there for us to understand how foolish we really are. The kings, they've come out of their foolishness, but we're still in our foolishness very deeply. We're still like the bacha in the car thinking, yeah, there's water on the road. Yeah, there's happiness in the material world. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be happy here. You understand how foolish we are? That we think I'm going to be happy. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to get a good job coding, doing coding, high tech. I'm going to get a big salary, right? A big package, annual package, 12 lakhs. Right? And I'm going to enjoy. Just like the small child, riding in the car, thinking, oh yeah, there's water in the road. Guess what? There's no water in the road, and there's no happiness at the end of that idea that we have, that we're going to be happy here in this material world. Now the kings have come to this realization. They're saying that we were childish before. We were foolish before. And now we can see that others are being childish and foolish. Right? Krishna consciousness means to wake up from our childish mentality, our foolish idea that we're going to be happy somehow or another in this material world, and come to the reality, right? It's time to grow up. It's time to wake up. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Jeev Jago, Jeev Jago. Wake up, sleeping souls. Right? Just like there's no water in the desert, similarly, there is no happiness in the material world. The so-called happiness in the material world is simply the effort to become relieved from the suffering. Right? Prabhupada gives the example, like this fan. This fan they put here, and I can think, oh, I'm enjoying this fan. But am I enjoying this fan? No. It's hot. If I don't have the fan, I'll start sweating. I'll sweat anyway, but I'll start sweating more, and I'll be miserable. So the fan's not enjoyment. What it is relief from the suffering of being hot. Right? So all the so-called material enjoyment in this material world is just like that. It's trying to get relief from the suffering. So these kings, by the association of Krishna, they've realized this. This is a great realization, right? But most 99.9% of the population, they just don't get it. It doesn't enter into the brain. And even we as devotees that are chanting the holy name, many times we still don't get it. So we can ask why. The kings got it as soon as they saw Krishna. As soon as they came into the personal association of Krishna, they understood it, and they're explaining it. But even though we have come in contact with Krishna, Krishna's devotees in the holy name, there's some residual residue left that somehow or another I can actually enjoy here in the material world. So that is our childish mentality. And by continuous association with Krishna, especially in the form of his holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, all that childish mentality can be washed away. And we can come to the realization as these kings have come to the realization. So let's continue about and see what is their realization. It says here, Shri means opulence, right? Lakshmi Narayan, opulence. Shri, opulence. So they said that they were mudha. They were intoxicated by their opulences. They were kings, okay? King is the final word. King can do no wrong. So they had the ultimate power. Nowadays, we don't have kings. They threw out all the kings, and they have a democracy. What does Prabhupada call it? Oh, you know that, huh? Okay, good. Because what happens in a democracy? You know, the people get together and they elect their leader, right? It's not a very good form of government. What happens when a whole bunch of dogs get together? One of them becomes a leader, right? But who is it? It's the biggest dog, right? So if a whole bunch of mudhas come together and pick a leader, he's going to be the Mahamudha. What is the value of that? Huh? But rather previously, there were kings, and there were saintly kings. They knew Dharma. They understood that they were meant to protect the population, to make sure that they were following the principles of Dharma, right? Varnashram Dharma. Society was divided into 4 Varnas: Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. There should be a class of intelligent men that really understand what is there in Shastra, and they apply it in their lives, and they're situated in the mode of goodness, serving Krishna. These are Brahmins. Right? Gyan Pratigraha, they distribute transcendental knowledge. Previously in the village, there were Brahmins. Now there's no Brahmins. There's only people that are Brahman Parivar. They're referred to in Shastra as Dvijabandhus. They're friends of Brahmins, right? But they don't do the work of Brahmins, nor do they have the quality of Brahmins. But previously, there were Brahmins, and the Brahmins knew everything. So the parents would send their children to the Brahmins, and they would teach them. From the Vedic literature, everything is there. Mathematics, whatever you need to know is there. And the parents would send with the children some production from the field, right? Grains, vegetables, ghee from the cows. And so what would the Brahmin do? The Brahmin would collect all those things, cook them all up, take some portion, and distribute the prasadam. At the end of the day, what was his balance? 0. This is Brahmin. Huh? So what happened? Everybody got prasadam because the Brahmins worship Vishnu. In every Brahmin's house, there's the Shaligram Shila, and they worship the form of the Lord. And they distribute prasadam. This is the Brahmin. And then there was the Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas, their occupation was to protect the public, to make sure that the public was following the principles of Dharma. Dharma cannot be made up. Dharma is not according to someone's imagination. Dharmam tu sakshat Bhagavat pranitam. Dharma comes from the Supreme Lord. There's certain things that the human population should follow to be following the principles of Dharma. And a lot of those are the same across many religions. We're not against any religion, whatever religion, Christian, Islam, Jewish, no problem, Prabhupada said. Right? If by following your religion you're developing love of God, then that's fine. Right? If you're not developing love of God, then that's something else. That's not real religion. Real religion comes to the platform of attraction for the personality of Godhead. And that's what these kings got. They become, by Krishna's association, they became attracted to Krishna. The test of Krishna consciousness is if we're attracted to Krishna. If we're attracted to the form of Krishna, if we're attracted by the name of Krishna, if we're attracted by the philosophy of Krishna, if we're attracted by the pastimes of Lord Krishna. That's the test of Krishna consciousness. And if we are attracted by Krishna, what will be our position? We'll have all good qualities. Right? And what are those good qualities? Means that we'll become free from kam, krodh, lobha, matsarya. Right? So it's easy to test. If we're still lusty, greedy, envious of others, we're not very much attracted to Krishna. And we need to work on that attraction to Krishna then. So these kings, however, they were attracted to Krishna, and they had gotten certain realizations. They understood that their effort to have a big kingdom where they were the supremo, right? They wasted their time. Srimad Bhagavatam explains, if you haven't developed an attraction for the personality of Godhead, right, then your efforts are shrama hi eva kevalam. It's simply a waste of time. Human life is meant to to develop that attraction for the personality of Godhead. If we haven't developed that attraction, in English they say we're simply spinning our wheels. If you're in a car and it's stuck in the mud, in the rainy season that happens, right? Get stuck in the mud. I remember one time we were in Kumbh Mela and we had the Jagannath bus. It's a big bus, very big bus, bigger than these Sankirtan office buses. And in the back of the bus was Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra from Mirror Road. Have you seen those deities in Mirror Road? Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra? So those deities used to be in the back of a bus. And the back of the bus, the doors were there in the back of the bus, and they swung all the way around. Right? And people would come up and have darshan, and devotees would be sitting in front of the bus, selling Bhagavad-gita, selling books. So one time, we were in the Kumbh Mela, and the Kumbh Mela is on the bank. How many people have here been to the Kumbh Mela? The old devotees have, yeah, not so many others. But in the Kumbh Mela, it's right on the banks of the Ganges and the Jamuna, where they come together in Prayagraj. Used to be called Allahabad. Now it's Prayagraj. So everything is sand. It's all sand there, right? And the devotees had the bus parked on these metal sheets. The government put these metal sheets to make roads, right? But somehow or another, the Jagannath bus got off the metal sheet and stuck in the sand, right? So when the bus was trying to get out, it was just spinning the wheels. They had a double wheel in the back, and they were stuck, right? So we may have our mala, we may have our tilak, we may have our kanti, but if we're not developing love for Krishna, we're just like the Jagannath bus in the sand, spinning the wheels. You got the picture? Okay, good. That's good. I remember one time, the driver made a mistake. We were somewhere in Madhya Pradesh. I can't remember exactly where, right? But the wheel of the bus got stuck in the storm drain, right out in front of the railway station. So we couldn't get out of the wheel out of the storm drain. And there was this team of workers from the railway department. And you know what their job was? Their job was, whenever there was a derailment of the cars, they would get there and move them off the tracks or move it back on the tracks. So there was that was their job. So they saw the bus stuck and they said, "Don't worry, we'll get you out." Right? So they got their jacks and blocks of wood and they positioned it and started jacking up the bus, right? Putting a block, jack it up more, put another block, right? So that the wheel was even with the road out of the storm drain. And under the wheel, they put this thick metal sheet like that. So they told the driver, now what you got to do is, because one wheel now is touching the metal sheet, but one wheel is not. So you got to rev up the engine, and you got to let out the clutch. In America, they say you got to pop the clutch. Pop the clutch means you got to rev up the engine real high and let the clutch out. And that'll bring the bus off the blocks and down on the pavement. So the driver was a little scared because he had never done that before. And he revved up the engine, and he dropped the clutch. The bus came off the blocks, hit the metal sheet, and got out of the ditch. But when it hit the metal sheet, there was a bystander, and when it hit the metal sheet, that metal sheet was this thick, and it shot the metal sheet just like a rocket and almost hit that bystander, right? And the railway workers were shouting at that guy. But in any event, he didn't get hurt. The bus got out. They opened up the doors of the bus and the curtains. Lord Jagannath was there. And all the people that were standing around started to chant, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. These are all the Leela of Lord Chaitanya. And if you want to experience the Leelas of Lord Chaitanya, the best way to do it is to go out on traveling Sankirtan. Best way. Because Lord Chaitanya is there out on traveling Sankirtan. He's ready to manifest himself, right? To the devotees. One time, Srila Prabhupada was in Chicago, and the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan devotees were in his room for darshan. So one of the devotees said, Srila Prabhupada, will you pray for us? And Srila Prabhupada said, you should know that I'm always praying for the boys in the buses. Srila Prabhupada ki. So if you want to get the mercy, it's available, it's freely available through Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, traveling Sankirtan especially. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu set the example himself when he traveled in South India for so many years together, going from village to village and inspiring the villagers to do what? Chant Hare Krishna. And sometimes he went to a village where they weren't interested to chant. You know, people are like that sometimes. They don't want to chant. We say, please chant. And they say, forget it. Right? Get lost, man. Get a job. Get a job. So what did Lord Chaitanya, when he do when he found a village that was like that? Some villages were like that. What did he do? He went to another village. Right? So these kings, they've gotten the realization. They've gotten the understanding. We need to get that understanding. We need to get that realization and stop spinning our wheels and wasting our time arrogantly disregarding the Lord in the heart. Here they say, we arrogantly disregarded you who stood before us as death. Right? They got the realization that death is coming. You know the saying, 100%, sure thing is death and taxes. You can't avoid it. So we should have that realization, understanding as these kings did, and stop trying to waste our time because they had everything taken away from them. Jarasandha came, threw him in jail, They didn't even have enough food to eat. But they didn't blame Jarasandha. No. They understood this was Krishna to teach us a lesson, and that's something that we can learn in our own lives. A lot of times when we get in a bad situation, we want to blame somebody else. They did it. Because of them, I'm suffering. The kings realized, not because of Jarasandha, because their merciful Lord, in the form of the time element, took everything away from us so that we could realize that we should be attracted to the lotus feet of Krishna. A devotee sees like that. He sees every situation, favorable or unfavorable, as a Krishna sent just to teach me a lesson, just to show me what I should do and what should be done. So the kings learned that very nicely. And having learned that, what was their conclusion? Their conclusion was that now that we understood this, never again. Right? So the devotee has that mentality. Yes, previously I performed sinful acts, many sinful acts, right? And I suffered. And that suffering came from Krishna so that I could realize what is the proper thing to be done. And the conclusion is from a devotee that never again, I'll never do that again. And just like these kings, they said, well, we're never going to hanker again for the mirage-like kingdom. Everybody in the material world is trying to make their kingdom. They're trying to be the king. Right? You got a bungalow in Virar, or a bungalow in Bandra, or an apartment in Kolaba. It's their kingdom. Right? They got their queen, they got their subjects, the children, right? Their servants, right? One nokar is there. I'm the king. So everyone needs to get that realization that this is just a mirage. It's not going to last. And you have to work very hard to maintain your kingdom. You have to become, we think we're the master of the kingdom, but we're actually the slave of the kingdom. Isn't it? You have to work really hard to get a apartment in Kolaba and to maintain it and pay the taxes and pay all the bills, right? And deal with all your subjects' problems, right? When you're alone, you're single. Nobody's really a brahmachari today, but when you're single, you just got your own mind and senses to deal with. And as soon as you get married, you got another mind, another set of senses. Then you have children, you have another mind and another set of senses to deal with, and it just goes on expanding. Right? So that's all right. Everyone must do something to maintain themselves. There's nothing wrong with household life, but one has to purify the consciousness to come to the platform of like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He had a family. He had many children. How many children? A lot. That's a lot. Nowadays it's hamdo hamarido. How does that happen? Only two, you know? How does it work? Only two. He had 10 kids. Anyway, they used to have big families, right? But now it's only hamdo, one boy, one girl. I don't know how it works. But anyway, somehow. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur's mentality was, he describes, that my dear Lord, these children, wife, they don't belong to me. They belong to you. And I'm simply your manager. See the difference in that? He had 10 kids. He had a wife, everything. Magistrate, right? He was such an important magistrate that he lived in Swarupganj, Swarabganj. But his office was in Shantipur, Krishnanagar. So they made a train up to that Surabi Kunj, I call it, so that he can get to the office. See how important he was. Huh? Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But yet, he was completely absorbed in describing the process of Krishna consciousness through his songs, which are like poetry. It's like poetry. So important is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he reestablished Krishna consciousness and the importance of Krishna consciousness, the high philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Right? So important is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Sometimes devotees become bewildered, and especially if they see some sadhu that speaks nicely, right? I think now there's one in Vrindavan that's speaking very nicely, and devotees are running there, right? But I have a test for all these sadhus, right? One thing, where's Mahaprabhu's birth site? 99% these sadhus will say, oh, it's in Navadvip. They won't say Mayapur. Will they? No. They'll say they're Navadvip. That means they don't accept Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And if they don't accept Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we don't accept that. Because he's our Acharya. He's the one that revived Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it was an excuse for begging. He's the one that brought into this world the ray of Vishnu, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who gave us none other than Srila Prabhupada. This is our sampradaya. Don't become bewildered. Don't go here and there. Be fixed up if you want to get the ultimate realization. Like these kings, by the association of Krishna, they got the realization. This is what it means to be a fixed up devotee in ISKCON. Does that mean you have strong faith in Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Thakur Bhaktivinoda. So I'll end there. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions? You know, the sign of intelligence is that you have some questions. You have some doubt. It's no problem. You can have a doubt. And you should express that doubt so that it can get clear. So if you have any doubts, let me know.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. So powerful. That last statement you have said, that don't get bewildered, be stick to the moment. This is our parampara. Recently, I was attending some peace conferences, Prabhuji. Peace. There are some intellectuals, intelligent class of people of the society. They are organizing some events, bringing all the religious leaders together and saying, let us bring the peace among the society, because religion is causing the war in the society. So they wanted to bring some peace message, bringing all the leaders of the religions together. So what is your comments on such conferences, meetings?
They should know the peace formula. If they don't know the formula, how will they have peace? What's the peace formula?
Krishna is the enjoyer, Krishna is the control.
They don't even believe that Krishna is God. Rascals. If there ever was a Krishna, they say, commenting on Bhagavad-gita and saying, if there ever was a Krishna. What does that mean? The Krishna is the enjoyer. He's the master of everyone. And he's the supreme friend. So if they don't know that, how will they bring peace in the world?
So, Prabhuji, here when we all got invited at one platform to speak, how should we represent Prabhupada? How should we
If you
represent?
go, you can speak. Prabhupada went to some Gita Sammelan in Hinganwadi, Warda, right, in Maharashtra, and he spoke there. But main thing is they did kirtan. They purified everyone's consciousness by doing kirtan. There was one, Rahul Bajaj, Mr. Rahul Bajaj, the owner of that, they used to make matadors, right? So he used to sponsor that. Prabhupada came. And many years later, they invited us to go there again. And that time, there was the new translation. The Chinese Bhagavad-gita had just been published. So we went to that Gita Sammelan, and the same one that Prabhupada, this is some years after Prabhupada, and we showed the Chinese Bhagavad-gita. Right? And this is the real preaching that the Bhagavad-gita, translated by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, as it is being sold even in China. So they were awestruck by that. So we can go, but we explain our preaching and give them no compromise and make sure they get the holy name and prasadam.
Thank you, Prabhu.
To give a reply
This
to
is
this.
Rohini Nandan, our visitor from New Orleans.
Hare.
Was a devotee here previously, and now he's living in New Orleans. His wife is a teacher there in a public school. She's a very brave lady, considering that they got guns in America. And he distributes books in the New Orleans on Bourbon Street, right?
Yeah. To give a reply to this, Prabhu, is a very interesting question. Many years ago, our President Abdul Kalam, you can see that, he quoted a very wonderful verse from the scriptures in a European Union. When he quoted this verse, the whole European Union stood up and gave a standing ovation. And he gave this verse. I noted it down, I memorized it. I tell everyone, you all can say that. He said in the verse, in scripture it's written, how to get a peace in this world. He quoted, where there is a righteousness in the heart. You can note that, where there is a righteousness in the heart, there is a beauty in the character. Where there is a beauty in the character, there is a harmony in the home. When there is a harmony in the home, there is order in the nation. Where there is order in the nation, there is a peace in the world. And Abdul Kalam quoted this verse in European Union, and the whole European Union stood up and gave a standing ovation. So you can check that in YouTube. So this is the second answer for that. Hare Krishna.
But in addition to that, we have to know how to get that purity in the heart, those good qualities. And basically, Srimad Bhagavatam explains that if one is a devotee of the Lord, then they'll have all the good qualities if they're a devotee of the Lord. And of course, becoming a devotee begins by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Because they become confused. Who's a good person, who's not a good person? They don't know. They don't know. If you just look at Arjuna, he looks like a really bad guy. Right? He killed his teacher. He killed his grandpa. He killed all his cousin brothers. We think, oh my God, this guy's really bad. Right? Arjuna's really bad. But he's not bad. Right? He did all those things for the pleasure of Krishna, on the order of Krishna. He is devoted to Krishna. So he's not only good, he's the highest good. People can't understand. They think, Hare Bhagavad-gita mera garma karega, to sab nasto jata hai, jhagada karega, aisa Bhagavad-gita nahi chahiye. You know? They're foolish. They don't understand. All foolish people. They don't have buddhi. So how to give them buddhi? Prabhupada said in their brain they got gobar. No buddhi. We have to give them brain. And that is by chanting, taking prasadam, gradually they understand who's good, who's not good. What is it, so-called good man, scientist, his next birth he takes birth as a dog. What is the value? He wasted that human form of life. You know, this life, it's like an exam. We're studying for the exam so that we can pass the test. And what is that test? Time of death. The kings mentioned death, right? They were defying death. We don't care for death. We'll make our kingdom. But now they understood. We failed the test last life, every one of us. So don't fail again. Pass the test. Become a devotee of Krishna. Develop all the good qualities of the demigods. And give up this idea, this manoratena, the chariot of the mind, that somehow or another I'm going to enjoy in this material world. If we do that, then we'll make a success of this human form of life. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.